Welcome to another edition of Horse Center, everyone. I'm Brian Zipsy, and as always, I'm joined by my Triple Crown partner of a host, Matt Scaggy Shipman. How are you, Matt?
I'm great, Brian, and I'm really looking forward to enjoying some Triple Crown history with you, Brian, the great historian of horse racing.
Triple Crown history, indeed, Matt. We're going to talk about, some people may say we're taking a negative spin on this whole American Pharoah thing, but not at all. We're looking at the horses, Matt, who have won the Kentucky Derby today, the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness, since Affirmed did it 37 years ago. Of course, Affirmed went on to win the Triple Crown in an absolutely fantastic Belmont Stakes over Alydar. But since 13 horses have won the Kentucky Derby and Preakness, as you well know, Matt, how many of them have won the Triple Crown?
We're still waiting.
We're still waiting, and hopefully 14 will be a charm. Let's start this little Triple Crown near miss history lesson with 1979, Matt. I was a big Spectacular Bid fan back in the day, and I thought he was the surest thing since Death and Taxes that he would become the fourth Triple Crown winner in the 70s to get it. Did he do it, Matt?
Well, he came, and you were right feeling that way. He came into the Belmont with was it a 12 race win streak, Brian?
12 straight stakes races, and Young America at the Meadowlands as a 2-year-old, not one of them was really too much trouble for the great Spectacular Bid.
Yeah, and you know, there was a lot of talk about Ronnie Franklin, the young 19-year-old rider, Spectacular Bid, that it was his fault that Bid lost the Triple Crown, but Bid was not at 100% that day because he got on the lead, and if Bid was the Bid at 100%, he wasn't going to lose that race. I don't think there was anything Ronnie Franklin could have done for him to lose that race. Then, of course, the story that came out afterwards about why he lost.
I think there's two diverse camps here, Matt. One will say, oh, it was the safety pin, the infamous safety pin. Of course, Spectacular Bid did get very sick. It was infected afterwards. They actually thought they might lose Spectacular Bid in the weeks following the Belmont because of that infection. So there was a safety pin issue. There also, let's face it, Ronnie Franklin, of all the great horses that I've seen in my lifetime, Matt, Ronnie Franklin was the worst rider of them all. He also was, he was no friend of Angel Cordero Jr., who kind of ran the jocks room back in the day. And Franklin might have been in fear of Mr. Cordero a little bit, who rode the very good General Assembly. And Franklin sent Bid early in the backstretch. And whether he, you know, after all those tough races, had a little bit something knocked out of him, whether the safety pin limited his effectiveness, Coastal came up the rail and was simply unstoppable. Now, Matt, I'm gonna say not many people remember Coastal here 36 years later, but I'm gonna say of the horses we're looking at here, the horses that have won the Belmont and stopped the Triple Crown, Coastal might have been the best one, or at least one of the best couple.
He was a heck of a horse, without question.
Big Peter Pan win, and as we see in this replay, Spectacular Bid just had no answers for Coastal's rally down the stretch.
Yeah, and I think one reason we're doing this is that there's a lot to learn from these great races that ended in Triple Crown misses, because I think throughout this we're going to have that same discussion a number of times. Did this horse go out too early, too soon, use up too much in a number of the misses along the way? And you have to go back to think about Secretariat and Affirmed and Seattle Slew. What they do in the Belmont Stakes to win their Triple Crowns, Brian?
Yeah, they wired it, Matt, and they were the best horse in the race, obviously, and they wired it. But some of these other horses weren't necessarily speed horses. And, you know, that Belmont, when you're in the middle of the backstretch at Belmont, you're still a long way from the finish line. So jockeys, I think, might have the tendency to make that move a little bit hastily in the Belmont backstretch, and that has cost several horses. Pleasant Colony was next 2 years later, Matt, 1981. Johnny Campo told the world that he could train, pal. And Pleasant Colony developed at the right time, won the Derby, won the Preakness, was a heavy favorite to win the Belmont, but he could never catch Summing, a real long shot.
Yeah, and think comparing today to back then with Pleasant Colony, Johnny Campo makes me think a little bit of Eric
Eric Yeo. Me too.
In appearance and in bluster, and in the fact that they could both train racehorses, pretty darn good also. But a lot of similarities. And after Pleasant Colony couldn't win it and lost to Summing afterwards, Johnny Campo said, you know, it's been a tough campaign, and it was a tough campaign for Pleasant Colony. And, you know, he just didn't have anything left in the tank.
He didn't have anything left in the tank, and he couldn't rally after a mile and a quarter that day. Then in '87, we had the very popular son of Alydar. Ali Sheba showed great courage in winning the Derby after dropping down to his knees in the stretch. He won the Preakness both times. He didn't win easy, but he went by. He powered by a good horse in Bet Twice. In the Belmont, he could never stay with Bet Twice. The backstretch, Bet Twice margin in third just kept getting bigger and bigger over Ali Sheba. And then when they were really asked for a run going into the far turn, only one of them really had it.
Yeah, and for me, I was a Bet Twice guy back then because Bet Twice was based at Monmouth Park with the great Hall of Fame trainer Jimmy Kroll. So that's my backyard. I was a big Bet Twice fan. And another theme that we'll see throughout the discussion is it was another one of those times where second place horse, and the Derby and Preakness turned the tables in the Belmont Stakes.
Yeah, Bet Twice was, I mentioned it with Coastal, Bet Twice was another really good one to turn the tables. This time, I think the speed hurt. Of course, a lot was made about Ali Sheba's lack of Lasix. He was running on Lasix back then. You couldn't run with Lasix in New York. So Ali Sheba didn't have Lasix. He also had some trouble on the turn, but it didn't matter if he had Lasix. It didn't matter if he didn't have any trouble. I don't think Bet Twice was beatable by Ali Sheba on this day.
Absolutely not. And Ali Sheba came back in 1988 and had a pretty good year, if I recall.
Yeah, Ali Sheba was a heck of a 4-year-old and a really nice 3-year-old, but Bet Twice too good on this day. As horse that stopped the next Triple Crown 2 years later, Matt, Sunday Silence and Easy Goer. All right, I'm gonna reverse field a little bit and say Coastal was only the second best horse on this list because I think the best Triple Crown stopper in the last 36 years was, of course, New York's Easy Goer. And did Sunday Silence, as good as Sunday Silence was, Matt, did he have any chance to beat Easy Goer 12 furlongs on this racetrack?
Well, it sure didn't look like it in that race because, and Sunday Silence didn't run a bad race. I mean, he handled some challenges. It looked like going around the turn that he had taken command of the race, but when Easy Goer was set down, wow, he just took off. And that was a trash talking kind of Triple Crown series that year. It was a whole West versus East thing going on that particular year with the people from the West saying that Easy Goer was overrated after the Preakness and even down to the race call by Marshall Cassidy coming down the wire. He proclaimed New York's Easy Goer.
Yeah, I think the fans really got into it. Had a little bit of that Tupac Biggie rivalry going, East Coast, West Coast. It got heated. It got heated in the Zipsy household because I was a Sunday Silence fan, and my brother Dave was an Easy Goer man. So hey, Easy Goer had his day. Big, wide, sweeping turns at Belmont Park. Easy Goer was just a powerhouse of a horse, and Sunday Silence really had no answer for Easy Goer. And Easy Goer, another one where he would have won almost any Belmont, be it Sunday Silence or any of the horses we're going to talk about. There was a gap after that, Matt. No horse won the Derby and the Preakness after Sunday Silence for about 8 years, and then Mr. Bob Baffert got into the mix a little bit, and his first Derby and Preakness winner was, of course, the gutsy son of Silver Buck, Silver Charm.
Yes, and again, we've had some pretty super combos here in the races that we've talked about, and Silver Charm again. He ran a really good race. He had the battle. He had Wild Rush battling with him all the way around, and then he had his rival from the West, Freehouse, battling with him around the turn, and he took care of them. But coming down the stretch, it looked to me like when Touch Gold made his move, I don't know if Silver Charm saw him coming way on the outside after he had taken care of Freehouse, and right by went Touch Gold.
Yeah, this was one of my favorite crops of the last 30 years, Matt. I don't think that Silver Charm was a better horse than Touch Gold at the time. Touch Gold went off form a little bit later, or Freehouse, or Captain Bodget. And of course, Silver Charm was just tough as nails, and he He outgamed Freehouse. He outgamed Captain Bodgett in the Derby and the Preakness. And he really, like you said, he did it again. Wild Rush was a nice horse. He put away Wild Rush. He fended off Freehouse, who was unusually behind him this time in the Belmont. But then the last 16th of a mile, I think it was the distance more than anything, the grueling 12 furlong distance, where finally Silver Charm just had enough, and the heart and the courage couldn't quite hold off the horse who had more momentum and maybe a fresher horse in Touch Gold. Good crop, though. 1 year later, Baffert back again. Real Quiet. How close was Real Quiet to winning the Triple Crown in 1998, Matt?
Of all the misses, I think this was the most exciting for so many different reasons. You know, coming into the year, Real Quiet was not Baffert's #1 gun. He was kind of Baffert's other horse, but he became Baffert's big horse with the Derby and Preakness wins. And again, Victory Gallop had finished second, and he'd finished second in the Derby and the Preakness. And boy, I tell you, coming around the turn into the stretch, it sure looked like Real Quiet had it wrapped up. And there came Victory Gallop, and one of the greatest Tom Durkin calls of all. He had so many, but just the fans should just enjoy this Durkin call because it was great.
Yeah, Durkin got everyone heated down the stretch of that run. Silver Charm reminded me a little bit of Pleasant Colony. He developed at the right time. He was workmanlike a little bit, but he won the Derby and the Preakness nice. And people have gotten on Kent Desormeau's ride in the Belmont, but he didn't move as quickly as Ronnie Franklin on Spectacular Bid or maybe Smarty Jones, we're going to talk about in a minute. His move came really on the far turn, going into the far turn and on the turn, and to open up 5 lengths in the stretch. I think Kent Desormeau, Bob Baffert, and all of the Real Quiet supporters had to be tickled pink to see that. But Victory Gallop was a heck of a horse, and he just mowed him down, despite a little bit of impeding going on there, where Real Quiet came out on him. But as they hit the wire, we had no idea who won. It was literally the head bob at the wire, and the photo finish that came through that showed Victory Gallop got a desperate nose in front.
Yep.
Now, the stewards said after the race, Matt, that they would have taken him down. Do you believe it?
I don't know. I find that out. Can you imagine?
Taking down a Triple Crown winner.
Can you imagine in today's world the response if you took down a Triple Crown winner? Wow.
It was far easier for them to say they would have than to actually have done it if they needed to. Who knows?
Question.
What a race, though. What a race. One of the best, right there with Alydar and Affirmed as far as excitement. Next year, the 3rd year in a row, Kentucky Derby Preakness winner Charismatic, who really came from nowhere, won the Lexington Stakes as a long shot, won the Derby as a long shot, won the Preakness, beat Menifee both times. Menifee was second. And then in the Belmont, he too had a chance, stalking the filly, made a move, got the lead briefly as they straightened out, but you could see the writing on the wall with a couple of horses, fresh horses, lightly raced horses rallying early in the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. He and Charismatic was late developing and into the Triple Crown. Tremendous training job by Lucas to get two jewels of the Triple Crown. And of course, it was Chris Antley on Charismatic that year. Chris Antley, who is going into the Hall of Fame this year, and probably what happened after the race got as much attention as Lemon Drop Kid did for winning it.
Yeah, Lemon Drop Kid went on to win that photo over Vision and Verse, but of course, and Charismatic kept trying. He was beaten at the 8th pole, but he kept trying all the way to the wire. Not sure exactly where the injury happened, but he was running hard as he did, a hard trying horse, and less than 1/8 of a mile past the wire, Antley jumped off and there's that picture that everyone knows, Antley holding up Charismatic's injured leg so that the horse wouldn't do any more damage to it. And who knows, maybe Chris Antley, one of my all-time favorite jockeys, who's no longer with us, of course, as Matt said, entering the Hall of Fame this year, which makes me very happy, holding Charismatic's injured leg up. And that was kind of the site of the 1999 Belmont. Lemon Drop Kid was a nice horse, won some more races after the fact, but yeah, Charismatic and Antley. He finished 3rd. 2002, 3 years later, we had the speedy War Emblem, Bob Baffert, the new Bob Baffert horse, though. He picked him up after his last prep, the Illinois Derby win. War Emblem blazed the way in the Derby and the Preakness, wire to wire. Wasn't a great crop, I think, this year. And then he came to the Belmont, Matt, and what happened to him in the first 50 yards?
Yeah, it was Bob Baffert, and first time teamed with Victor Espinoza in this Belmont also, and it was over at the start. War Emblem, who was a front running specialist, terrible, terrible, terrible break from the gate, never had a chance in the race, ended up finishing 8th, and the race was won by a 70-1 shot with Sarvana. So
yeah, Sarava got up. War Emblem, after he never got the lead, I think that was it, and not surprised that once that really confirmed Speed Horse couldn't get the lead. So if you have speed, you don't want to get shut off coming out of the gate like War Emblem did. The next year, really nice story. New York bred gelding, Funny Side, surprised a little bit in the Derby, turned the tables on Empire Maker, who beat him in the Wood Memorial, and then he won the Preakness for fun with no Empire Maker in the Preakness. Empire Maker skipped it. Bobby Frankel, trainee, came back into the Belmont and was ready on a muddy track at Belmont Park for Funny Side.
Yeah, and that was a fun Triple Crown too. The Sakatoga gang with their yellow school bus traveling to all the races. Just regular folks like all the racing fans get this wonderful, wonderful gelding. And as we know, he ran for years and years, picking up some more stakes wins after that, and is still a stable pony for his trainer Barclay Tagg.
Barclay Tagg, that's right. And this is a case, Matt, where probably the better horse won the Belmont. Empire Maker was beaten in the Derby, but Empire Maker was the real deal, and he held off 10 Most Wanted.
Yeah, and also for fans to keep in mind that seem to recently be making this phenomenon of skipping the Preakness to gear up for the Belmont as something new that's just happened in the last few years. Well, that's not true, and this race is a perfect example of that. As you said, Bobby Frankel taking the Preakness off, gearing up for the Belmont, and getting the win.
That's right. Very next year, Matt, again, a 3rd year in a row. We had quite a string here in the late 90s and the early part of this century. Smarty Jones, undefeated. He was looking to become the 2nd undefeated winner of this Triple Crown, and he ran a fantastic race in the Belmont Stakes, didn't he, Matt?
He did, and he came into the Belmont as an unbeaten horse, unbeaten in 8 starts. And again, I have to say, bring Tom Durkin into it again, but coming around the turn into the stretch, I remember watching this race. It looked like he was home. I mean, because it was Smarty Jones and he hadn't lost and he had opened up. He had a big lead coming into the stretch. And Tom Durkin called it. He said it's been 26 years and now there's only 1 furlong to go. I don't know. Maybe he jinxed it.
Yeah. He had to work hard early in the race, and then Rock Hard 10 and Eddington. Smarty Jones might have been pushed a little too early. We were talking about on the backstretch. Eddington, Rock Hard 10 kept him busy until they got into the turn, and then you could see Birdstone just building momentum on the turn. And yeah, maybe not quite the lead that Real Quiet had, but Birdstone was just running the whole stretch, and as valiant as Smarty Jones was, as tough as he made it on Birdstone, you could see Birdstone just reeling him in stride by stride, and people were upset. This was the only Belmont I remember where the winner apologized.
Yes, and Edgar Prado, who was the rider on Birdstone, who's always classy in everything that he does, he apologized. But then he added afterwards, he says, hey, I'm a jockey, and it's my job to win races. So that's what I did. I'm sorry that we didn't have the Triple Crown.
As will the 9 jockeys that line up against American Pharoah a week from Saturday. 2008, we had Big Brown, and Big Brown was kind of a dominant Derby and Preakness winner. Again, I don't think it was the greatest of crops, but Big Brown just stood over this crop in both the Derby and the Preakness. We got to the Belmont thinking, okay, 30 years, this is it. We're going to get another Triple Crown winner. Whoa, he didn't run a lick, did he?
He did not. And again, it was another one of those years where we had a trainer that was a big personality in Rick Dutrow. So much attention focused on him and his horse and his bravado and his feeling about Big Brown. And then throw in right around that time was the controversy about anabolic steroids, how a lot of horses have been giving them. the trainer said to keep their appetites up, but that all ended with a ban on steroids. And going into that race, Big Brown had been pulled off the steroids to keep his appetite up. And I don't know if we ever found out why Big Brown didn't run a lick in that Triple Crown attempt.
It's good that steroids have been banned. 4 years later, I'll have another. Came to Belmont off 2 feisty wins over the talented Bodemeister in Kentucky and in Baltimore. Unfortunately, he never got a chance to run against what ended up being an exciting race where Union Rags went by Painter late. I'll have another. Didn't get a chance to run.
No, Brian, remember sitting in the press box and we started to get hints of something was going on with I'll have another, and then the media circus with the announcement and the comments by O'Neill, and yeah, but it was a good story that Union Rags got his Belmont win in the end.
Popular horse in New York, Union Rags, and I'll have another. I maintain if he ran the race he ran in the Derby and Preakness, he probably would have won that Belmont, but who knows if he would have been able to do it a third time at New York. Finally, just last year, Matt, California Chrome, kind of a rags to riches story. California Chrome came to the Belmont Stakes, and he had a pretty strong following, didn't he, coming into the Belmont?
He certainly did. Victor Espinoza again going for the Triple Crown, and the Chromies were out in force, as well they should have been. He was a deserving candidate and had a darn good shot to win it. They had not a great break out of the gate. Again, stepped on, got the back of one of his legs cut up pretty good, and he fought gamely.
Valiant in defeat. We wonder if maybe Espinoza would have been better off going to the lead, but undoubtedly the injury early in the race didn't help his chances. And Tunnelist is a very nice horse. California Chrome, American Pharoah, some parallels have been made. I think the consensus right now, at least, is American Pharoah is the better California contender of the last 2 years. We'll see, Matt. We'll see. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting. 30. What did we say? 37. Maybe this is the time. Maybe this list, I can put a big X through this list in a week and a half when we have our next Triple Crown winner.
And I think one of the reasons we study history and we all have to take history in school is that what do the history teachers always tell us? That we're supposed to learn from what's happened in the past. We're supposed to learn from history. So I'm hoping that that's the case for Mr. Baffert and for Espinoza. And I think American Pharoah is a very good candidate for the crown. I think he's got everything he needs to.
He's got everything he needs to. It won't be easy. This is a pretty decent field he's going to face. But if he does it, I think people will be happy that he won't be the 14th horse on this list, and we won't be doing the same thing next time there's a Kentucky Derby winner and Preakness winner, Matt, coming to New York. Thanks for everyone watching. Again, Horse Center, as always, is brought to you by Horse Racing Nation and Derby Wars. Thanks for being with me today, Matt.
My pleasure, and we'll do the show next week, and I'll get to see you in New York in about a week, huh?
I'll see you soon enough out there, Matt. Triple Crown is on the line. We can't wait. Hope you're excited. We'll see you next week.